Good evening, tubers. It is your girl, Jasmine Marie, and I am here to review the Bachelorette Season 18, episode number 2. So, what a good episode that was. It actually was a really good episode. I was definitely engaged the whole time. On one commercial break, I had got up and made me some crab cakes. And I recently got the Old Bay hot sauce. And it's really good. It tastes like Cajun. It makes your food have like a little Cajun flavor to it. So let's hop into this episode of The Bachelorette. It was another 2-hour episode. So you know what that means. I am tired. I am sleepy because me being up at 10 o'clock is a lot for me, okay? This morning I woke up at 5:11 a.m. No reason. That's just what my body does, okay? So, of course, since it was 2 hours, I had to take notes again because there's a whole lot of stuff that happened in 2 hours that I got to remember. So, let's go ahead and get into this episode. So, I want to first start off by saying the episode started with... See, I don't forgot how it started, but at one point in the beginning, I remember Michelle saying, one of these guys will be my soulmate. And it just made me think about this question when she said that. Can you, in her type of situation, to where she's on a show, is it possible that she has a soulmate within the show? I wonder. Does that make sense? Is it possible that she has a soulmate within the show? Is that how your soulmate comes about? So people who believe in soulmates, I believe in soulmates. But people who believe in soulmates, how do you believe you come in contact with your soulmate? Good question. So anyway, she brings in the first date card. And the people who got to go on the first date were Romeo, Rick, KJ, Will, Olu, Casey, Danny, LT, Peter. And the lesson was love and partnership. So their date consisted of them being in a classroom, and she had 3, I don't know if they were her students or if they were just children. But there were 3 students, 3 younger kids, 2 girls, 1 boy, and they were asking questions. And the guys had like a little board. Each of them had a board, and they had to write the answer to the question on the board. Brandon was getting, I think it's his name, Brandon. Yeah. So Brandon was getting a lot of the questions wrong. So they were asking math stuff. They were asking how to spell stuff. I was about to say smell. How to spell stuff and things of that nature. While they were in the classroom, the pizzapreneur, Peter, he was definitely getting on my nerve. He definitely came off as aggravating, and I don't know what was up with him. But he was overly talkative, and he was talking about how he's the best of all the guys, and there's layers to him, and he was just acting real thirsty, like overly thirsty. They're sitting up there like doing a whole lesson or date, and he's doing like this, Michelle, while people are talking. So that was like real aggravating. I didn't find that to be funny at all. I found that to be like really weirdo type behavior. Then also while they were in the classroom, I don't know his name, but I feel like he's Hispanic maybe. One of the kids said spell narcissist, and one of the guys wrote Peter. Boy, oh boy, when he did that, I tell you, Peter was pissed, like pissed. Rightfully so. I do agree. So when Peter explained why he was pissed, I do agree with that. So later on, Peter, the guy, and Peter got into an argument, and Peter also had to meet with Michelle after that. Not because the guy called him a narcissist, but just when they were kind of having their one-on-one time, Peter expressed that he felt the guy shouldn't have done that in front of A, the children, and B, Michelle. Like, that was really embarrassing. Like, I get it was a joke, ha 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 ha, but that was also like, it was a lot. It was like, to call someone a narcissist on a show like a dating show, and then in front of children. Granted, like like I said, the guy was playing, but still, that was a lot. I would be upset too if someone did that to me. I would definitely be upset. I don't know how I would handle the situation, but I would definitely be like, I wouldn't like that person anymore. That's for sure. So Brandon, I like Brandon. I don't know. It's like I want to like Brandon, but like I said last week, Brandon gives me little boy vibes, and on top of him giving me little boy vibes, I felt like he was just like a little bit desperate today. Well, in the beginning. So like on his date, he came off as like desperate. It's like he was, some of the stuff he was saying is basically like, ladies, you know, when you meet a guy and the guy is just like a really, really good guy in the sense of mannerable, respectful, and he just doesn't seem like he's tough or rough around the edges at all. So Brandon gives me that type of guy, like the type of guy who would wake up in the morning and be like, hey, beautiful. And like in the first week, that'd be all cool. But then like after the second week, you start getting annoyed like at that, hey, beautiful. And you're like, oh, put some fucking bass in your voice or something like that. Brandon just gives me those vibes. So moving on. So yeah, so I already mentioned this, but then Peter, he did confront the guy. I wish I knew the guy's name, but I don't know his name. But he did confront the guy about calling him the narcissist, and they were like, Michelle was on a like a one-on-one date. It's a group date, but when they basically one person got pulled aside to have conversation with her, you could hear Peter and the guy yelling, and like they were acting like they were really, really, really about to fight or whatever. So Jamie gets the first date. Jamie also, he had, so like doing his one-on-one time, he got the first, no, that wasn't doing his one-on-one time. It got to a point of the date where she had to honor someone the first date, and Jamie was the person who got the first date. Rick, he gave her like a little bit of homework, and that was actually cute because she's a teacher and she's like so teacher driven. They sat there and they did like a little worksheet together that was actually really, really cute, clever, and different. So that was cute. Casey expressed that he doesn't really like Peter, and he calls Peter a little boy. He also kind of called the Hispanic guy that Peter was arguing with a little boy because he was saying like little boys who argue or whatever. He didn't like the fact that they were arguing because yes, when you're arguing, that does, on that show, a show like The Bachelorette, that does take away time from Michelle getting to know the guys, and it can also take away from just simply even one guy getting alone time. So I can see how that would be frustrating as well. So then Michelle sat down with Peter for like a little one-on-one time, and she was expressing to him like, you know, basically how you acted was unacceptable because even though right now it's all butterflies with us, what happens if when we get into it, you know, and we're in public pretty much, and you act like that, you get loud and rowdy or whatever. So I feel like when she said that, he tried to take it back, like basically pedal back, and tries to act like that's not the type of person he was, because he was like, that's so out of my character. And I really don't believe that that's out of his character. And I just feel like the way he was acting tonight shows that that's not out of his character, and that he's the type of person that would get up in somebody's face if they say something that he don't like. Mind you, the guy didn't even say, Peter, you're a narcissist. He just wrote down the name of Peter. So I feel like, granted, I understand how Peter could be upset at that. I just personally feel like that is Peter's character. And if they go out, if Michelle were to pick Peter, they were to go out to the club, God forbid somebody says something to Peter, I feel like Peter would snap like that, and Michelle would not be able to calm him down. So honestly, I personally would let Peter go. Not necessarily, I would let Peter go just because I'm not feeling Peter, number one. Peter the pizzapreneur, I'm not feeling him. And then that, because one thing that I personally don't do is I do not do public embarrassment. Like, we can argue, we can fight, we can do all of that in the car, in the house, but when we get in public, no, we are not arguing at all. You're not raising your voice, I'm not going to raise my voice. No public arguing. And I say that just because it looks really bad. It looks bad when I see people arguing in public, or I see men or women cursing one another out in public or exchanging words. It just looks bad. Like, it's like, ooh, what they got going on? What happened? It just, makes other people think the worst. Like when I see a man screaming fucking bitch or whatever, or no matter, even if it's not the opposite sex, even if it's to each other, whatever the case may be, I just think that it's just not good. So I believe that that's in Peter's character, and Peter would actually do that if she picked him. That's just what I think. So Brandon, he actually got the first rose. So they had a really good discussion on their date, and he, like I said, he was talkative. To me, he came off a little bit desperate, just like how he was explaining himself. Because I'm also actions speak louder than words, and I feel like in that case, their one-on-one time, his words were speaking louder than his actions. But one thing that I will say about Brandon, I feel like if Michelle were to pick Brandon, I feel like Brandon is very genuine and he's authentic. Although it does come off as desperate to me, I just feel like he's one of those guys, like I said, that he's a really good guy. So he would kind of like, the good morning, beautiful. Honey, what do you want to do today? Whatever you want to do. I feel like he's one of those, like he's probably a pleaser, like I want to please my woman, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I got my eye on Brandon, because I really, during their one-on-one time, I did see how authentic and genuine he is. And I feel like if she were to pick him, he would be definitely faithful, and that he would give his all to make that relationship work. So I do like that about Brandon. I feel that about Brandon. Michelle also went on a first date with Jamie. Their first date was, they went rock climbing, and Jamie seemed to have a lot of patience, and he was like very monotone as he was directing her how to get through the rocks. I haven't been rock climbing like that, but I have been to Ryan's Canyon in LA, in Los Angeles, California. And me and my daughter and a friend of mine, we climbed like the highest of the mountains at Ryan's Canyon. And my daughter at the time, she was 8 years old. Or was she 9? She was 8 or 9. So I had to be like 28 or 29. So this was 2018. So this was 3 years ago. So she was 8. Yeah, she was 8. I have to think about it. And you would think that like an 8-year-old could get up the cliffs height like better than adults, but like there were times where I had to carry her 8-year-old ass on my back to get her up the mountains, because it was just that crazy. But it was a really great experience. When we got to the top, we could see the whole city of LA, downtown, the tall buildings. It was so beautiful. I would totally do that again. And I said that if I lived in LA, I would try to make that like a part. I know I probably wouldn't be able to obviously do it daily, even though like in my mind I'm like, oh, I would do this every day. But I would at least try to get that in at least twice a month, for sure once a month. But I would definitely try to do that twice a month, because it was just like really peaceful, therapeutic. And me and my friend, we were pretty much talking the whole time, but just taking in like all of the nature, it was amazing. And like I said, climbing those hills and getting to the cliffs and the top of the rocks, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, Jamie and Michelle's first date, they like I said, he seemed to have patience. He was very monotone. He was a good navigator, so he was able to navigate her. Put your hand there, put your foot right, do this, do that. And you could tell he wasn't getting frustrated with her. So that was good. So that was interesting to see. To be honest, I don't really like Jamie. I don't know, it's just something about him that I don't like, but I liked their first date. So there was a part of their first date where they had a sit down, Jamie and Michelle, and they were just strictly talking, and he was very, very open, like very open, and she likes communication, and he was like open just about his mom, how when he was a child, his mom, she had mental issues. So he said that when he was about 12 or 13, he used to miss a lot of school, pretty much because he would stay home with her. And the times that he did go to school, he would actually be just pretty much at home wondering like, oh, I hope my mom hasn't killed herself yet. And to hear that, it was a lot. I mean, it was really a lot, because it makes you think like, wow, children really go through a lot. And you don't really realize how much trauma some people really have. And just, it just makes you really want to Of course, we should already be doing this, but just treat everybody with respect, because you just don't know people's past. You don't know their history. You don't know how they grew up. You don't know the dynamics of their family. You don't know if they have family. So I really do practice that. I really, honestly, I can truly say that about myself. Like, I really do treat all people with respect. I'm a very respectable person. I'm a very kind person. I treat everybody the same. So that's one thing that I do really, really like about myself. Back to him, it was really hard hearing that. Very hard to hear that. So, in that moment, just empathizing with him and sympathizing with him. And his mom actually ended up killing herself when he was 23. And that was, hard to hear, because just thinking about, like, oh my gosh, all those years that he sat in those classrooms wondering, like, am I going to go home and this is going to be the day, like, when he turned 23, it finally happened. So that was good to see that, he was really open with Michelle, and he was open to share those stories, those hard stories. I feel like that was a really hard story to tell, especially, like, so early on. That had to take a lot. So then it flipped a little bit to Joe. Joe had a situation where I believe his mom called him, and one of his old basketball coaches had passed away, and he felt like that coach was family to him. So he briefly thought about, should he stay or should he go? And he decided to stay because he felt like his coach would want him to stay, which is a good decision, because I really like Joe. Joe is, like, definitely one of my top favorites for Michelle. I'm definitely feeling Joe. I still have my side eye on Joe, because he did ghost her after sending 2 messages to her. So I definitely am a little iffy about Joe, but I really, really do like Joe as well. Joe, so basically the second group of guys, so the first group of guys, they went on their date, and their date was in the classroom. Then the second group of guys, they went on a date, and their date was a basketball date. So they were all playing basketball. So it was going to be 2 teams, and whoever won, that team would get special time with Michelle. Pretty much all in all, they went into, like, a little info session about Joe. Joe went to University of Minnesota. Joe was Mr. Minnesota basketball, which means he was pretty much the best basketball player in Minnesota. Joe was actually on the losing team, so he wasn't supposed to go on the after party date, but she ended up giving MVP to Joe. I feel like that's how you know she really likes Joe, because Joe was on the losing team, but Joe still got MVP to go on the date. So I feel like she's really feeling Joe, right? She's definitely feeling Joe. So he got to go on the date, and I will say, like, so I was like, as I'm watching the episode, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of kissing. Like, I don't think I would be able to kiss that many guys. Like, just in general, just thinking about, like, even growing up and things of that nature, I wasn't like a person, I wasn't one of those girls who just, like, kiss anybody. Like, I only kissed people that I was pretty much in a relationship with, even in my adult life. Like, I wasn't one of those girls who were just at the club dancing with a guy and then I turn around and kiss him. Like, that wasn't my thing. So it's very interesting watching this episode where I can't remember who she was on one of the one-on-ones with, having that alone time with, and I felt like she wanted to kiss him because she kept, like, bumping him, like, getting closer and closer and closer, and I just was like, oh my gosh, she wants to kiss him. And they ended up kissing, but it was, like, a lot of kissing. I think if I was on The Bachelorette, I don't know that I would be able to kiss like that. Like, I wouldn't want them kissing me, and I maybe would kiss the ones that I'm really, really feeling, but that would even be, like, later on down the road. That definitely wouldn't be episode 2, which makes me wonder, like, I wonder how much time I wonder how much time has gone by, actually. Like, has it been a week? Has it been 2 weeks? Has it been a month at this point? So I'm going to do some research on that, because I'm very curious to know, like, basically from the time the guys are picked and from that first introduction of Michelle to week 2, how much time has gone by? Has only 2 weeks gone by? Has it been 2 days? Because I also find it interesting that they can sit there and say, like, oh, I'm really feeling him. I'm really feeling him. Oh, I can see myself falling for him. Or, some of the guys are like, oh, I'm really into her. I'm really into her. And it makes me wonder, like, how? But, and even while I was watching the episode, I went back and I was thinking about my boyfriend. And me and my boyfriend, we've been together for 5 years. And I was thinking about our initial meeting up until, like, the point where we knew that we were going to be together. Like, at what point did I start falling? And then I thought about it in my head, and I'm like, well, you know what? I think I kind of, like, was into him very, very early on. So I'm not saying that it's not possible for them to know that they're into her, but it just is very, hearing it just sounds dramatic and theatric. I'm so into you. I'm so into you. Michelle was giving me thought vibes when she was kissing Nate. Did y'all see how she was like pulling herself in? Ooh, she feeling Nate. I like Nate. I like Nate too. Joe and Nate are definitely at the top of my list. I really like them. So Joe actually ended up getting the first rose in his group date. So, yeah, and then they switched to like where they were going to do the cocktail hour and that little part where Michelle meets with the guys and they go into the cocktail hour and then they go into the rose ceremony. And baby, Michelle had on that purple dress and that thing was looking good. She's a beautiful, beautiful black woman. She looks so good. She wore that dress. That dress did not wear her. She wore the hell out of that dress. So, basically, in that moment, some of the guys, they got together and they started getting suspicious about Michelle and Joe. They were basically like, of course, Michelle has to know Joe because they both live in Minnesota and she's always picking him. And what else were they saying? She's always picking him, and he went to University of Minnesota. He was this big time basketball player. Blah, 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 blah. So basically, they're getting insecure. They're getting jealous. They're feeling the like, okay, Joe is taking the lead pretty much. So they start talking and running their mouths. I always tell people men run their mouths more than women, and that's true tea. That is true tea. So anyways, so they get together, they start talking about Michelle and Joe, and then Jamie decides that he's going to be the one to take this information to Michelle. So Jamie goes and confronts Michelle with this information. Jamie basically goes up to Michelle and he's like, hey, I don't even think he said some. I think he said all the guys in the house are talking about how you already know Joe and the trust. And he's saying all of this stuff that basically no one said except for the little 2 or 3 people that were in the group with him. They were standing there having that conversation, being stupid. And I like what one of the other guys said early on, because somebody was talking about Joe or something like that early on, and it was Nate actually. He was like, I'm not worried about nobody else, I'm just worried about me. And I do kind of feel like, why y'all are men, why are you worried about what Joe got going on? Focus on you and Michelle, not what Joe and Michelle got going on. But you're obviously threatened, so now you're trying to figure out a way to sabotage something or to get something going to start some drama. So that whole part, it was like very dramatic, very theatrical. And of course, there has to be drama in the episodes, basically to keep us engaged and to keep us watching and to make us come back next week like we do, right? But to me, that was just a little bit too much. Then Michelle is crying, and I'm literally looking at the TV like, why are you crying? And she's like, my character is being questioned. And personally, of course, I'm not Michelle, and I'm not the one on the TV show, and I'm not the one standing there in front of 25, 30 guys. So, but I really don't feel her character was being questioned. But obviously, she doesn't know the dynamic of the conversation. She doesn't know who was having the conversation. She doesn't know the dynamic of the conversation, and she doesn't know what was said. She's just hearing what Jamie repeated back, and what he repeated back was not 100% accurate. So that was annoying. I wish he hadn't done that. First of all, I wish that conversation had not taken place between Jamie and the other guys about her knowing Joe. Because the thing is even if she knows Joe, I feel like Joe has it harder because Joe is the one who ghosted her. So I feel like some of the other guys may have a better chance than Joe for that reason, because she may feel, you know what, I can't trust Joe because, you know what, Joe ghosted me. Is Joe just, is he here for the right reasons? If I were her, that's some things that I would be thinking like, oh, so you didn't want me back then, but now I'm a Bachelorette. Now you have an opportunity to be on TV. Now you're here. Really? So I feel like he would have it just a little bit harder. But I guess I don't see what they see. And I like that Nate, so Michelle basically confronts the guys and she's telling them how she feels that her character is being attacked, and she's just expressing some words and she's acting so distraught and yada yada yada. And when she's done, she basically tells the guys like, hey, this is open discussion, let's have this discussion. Nobody says anything, yo. Nobody. Not even the people who, granted, most of the guys don't even know what they're talking about, because I believe in that little group it was only 4 guys, one of the guys being Jamie, and then it was like 2 or 3 other guys. It was that guy who has like black and blonde, And then I think it was one of the guys who kind of was acting like guilty, like, oh, I gotta talk to Michelle. And then I can't remember who else, but it was literally just the 4 guys or whatever. So they started all that drama for no reason. In the process, Nate tells them, Nate had done called Michelle Shell. So he was like, who running their mouth to Shell? And I'm like, bitch, they done gave Michelle a dick name. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I like that though, Shell. Shelly Shell. So that was really funny to me. So then the guys, they're looking around and they're like, who said something? Who said something? Nobody speaks up. They want to know who told Michelle, and Jamie does not speak up. So I feel like now I really don't like Jamie, because I feel like that's very punkish of him. Like, if you went and ran your fucking mouth, like, you need to be the one that be like, you know what? I told Michelle that this is what's being said, and here's why I told her. And, you know, you could have let it be gone. You could have said, I told her because I don't want this to come back up. I don't want people to keep talking. I want the focus to be on Michelle and not Joe. And, you know, the more we keep talking about this, the more time it's going to take away from us getting to know Michelle. So I want the rumor at the forefront. But instead, you didn't speak up to the guys. So I feel like because he didn't speak up to the guys, he's such a punk. Like, now I don't like him and I don't want him gone because you're a punk. You spoke up to Michelle, but you can't speak up to the guys and tell them that you're the one that told, and you can't tell them why. So are you really a good communicator? I don't like him. I want him off. Anyway, so after that, Michelle was so emotionally distraught and distressed that she had to cancel the cocktail hour. So she canceled the cocktail hour and she went straight into the rose ceremony. And two of the people that I wanted to get a rose actually did not get a rose. I think PJ was his name, which I think was one of the firefighters. And then there was the lighter guy. I don't know his name. I'm gonna have to look it up. But he didn't get a rose, and I was sad about that. And the person who got the final rose was the person that I don't even like. The pizza panora, a.k.a. Peter. The person I don't like because I just feel like he's such a weirdo. Like, I don't know, there's something about him. I'm not feeling him. Anyway, that was the episode. That was season 18, episode 2 of The Bachelorette with Michelle Young. Excited to see what next week brings. More drama, more theatrics, but we're going to be tuned in. So good night and see you later. Bye-bye.